Hello and welcome to the Hardy Brain, the show that takes athletic, introverted entrepreneurs and leaders and transforms them into ironclad brain performers. I'm your host, Dr. David Hardy. And today on our show, we've got another amazing guest. He is the host of the Connector Summit, the creator of We Connect cards, and is redesigning the world for connection. Welcome to the show, Chad Littlefield. How are you doing today?
Super good to have you. I'm intrigued that you picked those three things as the intro. Those feel like a pretty central part of my focus lately. So good homework, my friend.
Absolutely. Now, yeah, for the people that really don't know you, and
Yep.
is you're a master at facilitation here.
Yeah.
And
So they say.
there's a lot of bad meetings, and Zoom, I think, has made it even worse. And sometimes it just feels like you're in prison on some of these calls. But
Yeah.
I look back at your history here, and you've actually facilitated inmates as well.
Yeah. I used to work with juvenile inmates who were actually in solitary confinement, separated from general population because they were minors. And so, I was counseling them through the bars of solitary confinement for a few years. And then a handful of years ago, co-wrote a book with a mentor of mine called Ask Powerful Questions, Create Conversations That Matter. And so a lot of my work in this area is really coming to the realization that questions are not just interesting, neat tools that help us connect better, but the questions we ask are very literally edit buttons for what happens next. Right? If you at some point in this podcast, you already have, but at some point in this podcast, you're probably going to ask me a question, and it will literally change the words that come out of my mouth in the following couple minutes. But also, and this is where I'm curious to get your expertise in functional neurology and whatnot, is my understanding is that when I'm asked a question that I haven't considered before, that my brain's starting to create new neural pathways to make connections between past ideas, to come up with new ones, and to figure out okay, how do I answer this question? And when we start thinking about something, so I had a mentor a couple of years ago ask me just simply, what is something you would like to do more of?
Right.
And my answer at that time was scuba diving. I grew up scuba diving, but I hadn't gone in 6 years. I hadn't prioritized it, but it was a huge part of who I am, my identity. Hadn't gone at all. 8 months after he asked me that question, that was just a little in my mind. That was just almost a little throwaway chat. It was a little connection before the content of our meeting. 8 months after he asked me that question, I flew down early before a keynote with a bunch of heads of learning and development in Florida. And I flew down just early enough to fit in a scuba dive, going hunting for fossils. And when my head popped out of the water, I realized oh, dang, if Mark didn't ask me that question, there's a 0% chance I would have thought about it, prioritized it, reorganized it in my brain as something I wanted to do. And looking into it, there is a whole question behavior effect. And there's studies about on college campuses asking people just what their intentions are to donate blood actually veers off 8.6% of people over to a blood drive. Just the question, what are your intentions to donate blood today? And so all
of a sudden it becomes something that somebody is consciously aware of and is thinking about. And you do this right off the bat with most people think the meeting and everything starts at, well, maybe a little bit before the time. But you're no, here's the most important time is when people are coming in through the door.
Yeah.
And, so maybe you're asking questions. What else are you doing to kind of develop rapport with people before they sit down and you put them through activities and information and learning?
Yeah. So, I mean, context specific. So it's this weekend I was emceeing a TEDx event, and there was a bunch of people walking into an auditorium from all different walks of life, all different ages. They didn't really know what to expect. It was different. So that's one context. Another context is an intact meeting with 6 people you've met with every week for 5 years. And so obviously my approach with those groups is going to be very different. But here's the universal thing that I'm thinking about for both of them. And it's a phrase that now friend introduced me about 15 years ago, Mark Collard. The phrase is the unofficial start. And the way that he and now I would define an unofficial start is typically, right, we reward people for being late by waiting for them. So
Right.
if so-and-so isn't here, we wait until 9:03, 9:05, 9:07 to start the meeting. The unofficial start says, no. People's time is really precious. Whoever's there, whenever they arrive, what is the thing that you're going to immediately and purposely invite them to contribute in some way? Invite them to participate. And so the idea is that starts maybe a few minutes before the official start, and it runs a minute or two after the official start to extend understanding to anybody who's late and not put them on the spot. But meanwhile, like the meeting's already started. Like we're not waiting for somebody to start the meeting. And I'm saying this in like kind of an intense tone, but this is actually a very generous ritual. And it's generous because it does two things. It's really good. This practice is really good at setting expectations of what kind of a room you're walking into. So for example, at the TEDx event, a handful of years ago, I created these name tags that literally put connection before content. So at some point I was at an event and, I got the red "Hello, my name is" stickers. And, and I just had the thought, like, there's no way that just knowing your first name is the best possible entry point to a meaningful conversation. Like it's a starting point, but it leaves all the heavy lifting and social risk to us. It would be much better if like a little bubble popped over your head and said like, right now in this moment, I really want to talk about blank, or right now I'm really passionate about blank, or I'm trying to solve the challenge of blank, right? And so at the TEDx event, our unofficial start was as people registered, they scanned and registered, and then we guide them over to fill out a name tag. And this was a little bit of a shock to some people's system because as they were filling out the name tag, they're like, wait. This is a TEDx event. I thought I was just going to like sit in the dark theater and watch people give lectures.
Right.
Why do I need a name tag? And for me, this is important because up front, if you're going to invite people to contribute, up front, you want to set the tone for contribution. And so even if people are a little bit uncertain and a little bit fearful in that very second, it serves great benefit to the whole rest of the gathering for them to be in the mindset that I am here to actively contribute, not just passively consume and take in. And I guess the brain, I'm curious. Let me share this with you, and I would love to know your brain thoughts on this. So I was at a talk from like one of the founders of Gallup StrengthsFinder years ago in Asheville, where we originally met.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And
great town.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
He had us stand up and in the middle of his, I'm going to call it a lecture because it was mostly a lecture, except for this moment. He had us stand up and he said, "Why am I having you stand up right now?" And he put up a picture of 9 fMRI scans. So 9 different brains doing 9 different activities, from most blood flow and activity to least.
Okay.
Number 8, he like pointed out some that were like obvious, like, okay, this would be high activity, makes sense. Number 8 was someone who was asleep. There was their brain sound asleep. Number 9 was attending a university lecture.
Okay.
Right. So it's like his point was, and physical motion, by the way, was one of the things that increased. And so this is why he had to stand up. But for me,
so the university student's brain was less active than the person who was asleep.
Than someone who was literally asleep. So the person sleeping in class's brain.
I've been in those lectures. Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So the person's class, or the person who was sleeping in class, was getting a bigger brain workout than the person who was awake taking notes. According to this scan. Now, to be fair, I do trust this guy because he's like the founder of StrengthsFinder. He's like a pretty reputable character. I have not, and he cited the study as having been done at Harvard. I have not been able to find the original study. And so, but I'm curious, just based on your background in functional neurology, like thoughts on this. For me, I translate that as when we're in environments that are designed for passive consumption, our brains say, don't have to work. Good night. And they kind of turn off.
Yeah.
Whereas when we know we're like on the edge of about to participate in something, we're like standing in gym class and we're about to get chosen on a team to play dodgeball, we're like very aware because we're going to have to go somewhere. We're going to have to do something. We're going to have to move out of the way of a ball.
Yeah,
I'll leave that with you.
You're absolutely spot on that one, is that the majority of the brain and nervous system is designed for movement. And like in humans, we think, oh, big brain means cognition and book smarts. And no, the biggest, best brains are the people that can maneuver and do things quickly on their feet and read and react. And like the most like if we went to, okay, let's take the nervous system and brain of like say a cockroach all the way up to a human. At no point in time do we say anything about cognitive activities and things until we get to humans. But every other nervous system on the planet, it's like, okay, well, what complex things can they do? Like rats, birds, mazes is how they measure that. Is okay, well, how do you react with your environment and everything in it? And then we're like, well, the more smart animals also have socialization in there. And it just keeps building and building. And we forget that when we talk about brains and nervous systems is they're not designed for just cognitive activities for writing examinations. And the majority of the jobs out there, you're not writing examinations and just doing some pen and paper thing, or not even pen and paper anymore. You're actually having to think, deal, communicate, all these activities all at once. And that's the stimulation part. And then if you put them in a noisy environment or something that's overstimulating, then things can fall apart. So there is this threshold of what we can handle. So some meetings, and this goes into the facilitation part, is that I'm sure you've seen it, is some people try too hard to get too much in.
Yes.
Or they think that we need like bright lights, we need to get people up dancing and throw in all these activities, and things just fall apart. And it goes from being, okay, well, this might be exciting, to, wow, that was, I don't know what that was.
Yeah. So, or like, why did we spend, like, as a big company, I've been to a lot of big company events, like, why did we spend $1 million on the stage setup and this giant screen and all of this stuff, and literally brought all of our people, flew them in to sit them in a dark room to basically watch a very underproduced movie? Like that, that's basically what's happening. Yeah. It's like a live, unrehearsed, unproduced movie. And this is, I don't blame anybody for creating that, because our culture is very much wired and designed for consumption. Every platform has a team of 6-figure paid engineers behind them, making sure that the app is designed for maximum consumption. Stay on the platform as long as possible, right?
Yes.
And so it would make sense that we also design our gatherings for that. But this is how we met, actually, in Asheville. Like, you did this really well when we were in person at an event. You actually, as I remember, and you can correct, I'm actually curious how you remember the exercise. I remember the exercise by you inviting someone. You were demonstrating that you're trying to prove, in my mind, that multitasking does not exist. And you had somebody stand up and just walk across the room, walk back and walk the other way. And we were like, okay, cool.
Right.
And then you had them do the exact same thing, walk back and forth across the room. But this time you were asking them math problems that they had to solve while they were walking. And you could see as they were trying to solve them, they couldn't walk and solve the math problem. They would like stutter their step, or they would pause and think and then start walking again. Which, first of all, how do you remember that? Is that about what happened?
Well, that's a classic neurologic test, is dual tasking. So there's a textbook out there, DeMeyer's, and it's the neurologic examination. So this is a textbook used by medical neurologists all the way to anyone who wants to know more about how to read the nervous system. And in one of his editions, he goes, if I only had one test to do, I'd see how somebody walks. And walking and movement is basically brain output. So if it's uncoordinated, if there's freezes, hesitations, rigidity, all of these things. And naturally, we pick this up when we observe other people. It's like, oh no, that person's in a rage moment, or that person is half asleep, or that person is, it's going to be a difficult conversation. And we've almost been taught to ignore that. And
Totally.
some people will say, don't go off that gut instinct. And it's like, well, no, that gut instinct's telling you something about that person's nervous system. And then the more complexity that happens, then we see some of these deficiencies or areas of the nervous system that aren't working properly fall apart. And yeah, that's simple. Yeah, just count back from 94 by threes as you walk. And yeah, you'll see seeing some people that, yeah, their nervous system's not as sharp as you think with that dual tasking. Does that mean that they can't sit down and do complex math problems? No, it's that combined with other activities like simple movement, it falls apart.
I appreciate that it's even not even multitasking; it's just dual tasking. Like, forget adding a third thing onto that, right?
Oh,
yeah. Also, solve a Rubik's Cube while you're doing the math problem while you're walking. It's like people just crumble on the ground.
Yeah, and well, we see that in like athletes. So then it goes into athletic performance. Like, yeah, in a lot of sports, that especially team sports where it's read and react, there's so much going on all at once. And then you see people that they need that extra stimulation. So these are your, I'm bored. And then all of a sudden they're like just going, and they're in that moment of the sport in the heat of the battle. And that's where they thrive. And then they go back to being bored. Or the opposite, somebody who becomes overstimulated, anxious right away. And like each sport, each activity, each movement kind of affects the brain differently. And I'll throw this to you because I know you're training for an insane 25-mile swim across Lake Erie here. Yeah. So with swimming, what is the effect or feeling you get from it?
Interesting. So, two things. One, I would not be very surprised at all if I've been living my whole life and adapting to some level of undiagnosed ADHD. And there's something like, since I was a kid, submerging underwater has been like Adderall. It's been like peace. It's like everything goes quiet.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get this peaceful feeling, and then this repetitive, and it's one of the only times in my life where my brain isn't moving a million miles an hour trying to do 100 things. It's just trying to do one thing. And so for 25 miles, I will just think subtly, what do I need to tweak about my stroke so my shoulder doesn't blow out? How do I need to fix my body position? How can I improve that? I'm like just thinking for the most part about that one thing. And then sometimes you just get like in an automatic rut. And I do think about other things, but it's never two at a time. Whereas on land, I'm like, whoop, 15 things at a time, all over. The joke is like,
yeah, you're the common presentation of a high performer who does long distance events.
Interesting.
And like, because it becomes meditative, it's that zone out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went from thinking 15 things down to like just nothing. Like, I feel great. I'm in this state. And like marching, like why did armies have their soldiers march like for miles? And basically that uniplanar repetitive motion actually turns down our thoughts and our brain output.
Oh, fascinating.
And it's that zone out, go forward, and that's it. And then others, it's, no, I need that stimulation. Like, come on, I need somebody running at me who's trying to take off my head. Or the dancers, they need that rhythmic activity. Or like your speedsters. Oh yeah, I don't wake up, I don't feel good unless I'm going 300 miles per hour on my motorbike. Like things like that. So each sport, each activity has a different effect on the brain. And
It's like this is I've never thought about people's activities of choice or lack of activity of choice of like our brain in some way like seeking natural medication. Like there's these big bags of chemical. Like, I was just finished Neil deGrasse Tyson's book. The subtitle was something on like cosmic perspectives on Earth or something. And the way that he referred to humans was we're just big bags of chemicals walking around. And sometimes we need to add or subtract some of those chemicals to be at optimal performance rates, which is such a probably more like realistic and maybe even uplifting perspective on the stereotype around like taking medication for anything. But also, our brains produce chemicals. And so when I go for a swim, I get these endorphins that I'm not getting doing something else that's like, it makes me very peaceful in comparison. So I love the idea that naturally we seek that.
Well, here's the thing. Everybody goes to the chemical model of brain function, but it's electric activity, it's signaling, it's communication. And the nerves and the communication that goes out of the brain go only two generalized places. And that's going to be to muscles and to glands. So then that's the movement versus, the hormones and the endorphins and all these other things that we get with our activity. And, this can also be thrown back into our meetings and our facilitation is, I'm going into a TEDx. So I know they're kind of more cerebral, probably. Or I'm going into prison system. And I know they've probably got a different reaction. And then, what activities do I maybe plan? And you just do this instinctual now because you've been in these situations and have seen it and you get called for these meetings. And how do you change the actual meeting activities then? With what you've done in the past that has worked? And then does this kind of give you more insight on then the brain and neurology behind it?
Yeah, I think, one, it's, so firstly, when I go to design any gathering, I have a very particular process of doing it. I write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on a blank piece of paper. And those map to, for me, they're 5 ingredients or 5 locations for contribution. They map to any gathering or meeting. It doesn't matter if it's a 1,000-person event or a 5-person intact team meeting. Unofficial Start, which we talked about earlier, is number 1. Right? Yeah. Number 2 is context, and so on and so forth. What I'm picking up and appreciating from this conversation is layering into each of those. Like for each of those 5 ingredients, I can be asking, what will this be doing for the brains of my group? Yeah. Brains, plural, right? So it's like if number 1 and number 2 were both quite, actually, here's an example. So number 1, Unofficial Start, I've had them like write down a name tag and they filled that out. And so it's a bit of like a cognitive social exercise, but they're also writing. Nice. For number 2, which for me is a context hook. It's like the idea that the belief that unless you do or say something to bring everybody into the same moment, you're going to have 30 different meetings happening because nobody's in the same context until you invite them to show up in that same, even if they're in the same room or they click the same link, they're not actually all there because they've had a totally different morning. Their bodies feel differently. They ate different things. They have different people angry with them, different people happy with them, different texts on their phone, right? Literally everything is different except for the room or the link they clicked. And so the context hook is like what brings everybody together. So for me, one of the exercises I'll do often enough is invite everybody to cross their arms. Have you done this one?
I love it. So crossing your arms, I already feel like I don't want to talk to many people.
Well, so play with it. So cross your arms and then look at what arm is on top. And then switch arms so the other arm is on top.
Right.
And you're like, the way that I explain this, and I don't have my postdoc in functional neurology, but the way I explain this is that at some point as a little kid, I crossed my arms like this, and it made like a little neural pathway that said, okay, you do this when you cross your arms. And then I did it over and over and over again, and it felt very natural. There's nothing anatomically different about switching it. It's just like going lefty to righty. But my brain is so not used to this But I think if I
Exactly.
cross my arms ambidextrously every day for a month, it would feel
would
much more
change.
natural, right?
Right. It
So
would.
this would be a context hook in terms of tapping into someone's physicality, but then I draw that cognitively to the metaphor of like, cool. So what you just experienced, there'll probably be points today where I invite you to do something that you haven't already done. And when I do that, the point is to wire new neural pathways and actually learn and grow and leave this room slightly smarter than you currently are. And most people can get pretty on board with that intention most of the time. And so it's ironically a very good arms uncrossing exercise. As a speaker or facilitator, it's like, okay, when everybody does that, they've participated, they've engaged. Most people find that quite interesting. That they never discovered that, and so it's a little new thing. And then for the rest of the time, if I ask them to do something that's a little bit more socially risky or they haven't done it before, I can just come right back to that anchor of like, I know this is not normal for you. We're going to do it anyway. Right. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Another thing I'll do is flexor posture versus extensor posture. So that confident standing up pose that most people forget about versus that that going back to the fetal tight pecs, tight scalenes in the neck, poor breathing patterns. And it just gets them thinking about this physiological state that happens with whatever position they're in and that posturing, right? Which is another thing that people recognize and cue in on whether a person's alert, confident, or bored or fearful or whatever kind of affect is also on the face with the shoulders, the neck, and the chest, right? So,
well, I like the idea actually of having an audience like everybody freeze exactly where you are. Do not move a single muscle.
right.
Now
Yes.
pay attention to how are you sitting. I'm going to narrate a couple ways that you can sit. I want you to tell yourself and just become aware of how you are sitting. And then once you're aware, after I say 3, 2, 1, then change your posture to how you would like to be sitting.
Right.
And it moves from like this default part of the brain to a more deliberate part of the brain. Super cool. Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
I'm gonna jot that one
posture.
down. I might have to share that in a future YouTube tutorial and cite Dr. Hardy.
I love it.
Cool.
Yeah. So what's coming up for yourself here? The book, emceeing a couple TEDx conferences was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Training for one long swim.
Actually, what I'm gearing up for is something that it's actually my favorite brain term I learned. I was working with a creativity and innovation professor at Penn State when I was in college, and he introduced to me the term cognitive loafing, which is just a PhD language for don't do anything, give your brain a freaking break. So I'm actually, as we move into summer and it's gonna be warm around Lake Erie, start swimming some more. I'm actually kind of winding down and intentional. I love my work. And so my self-work rather, is actually taking longer sabbaticals from that work.
Nice.
Because I know that cognitive loafing, I know that when I'm not in it and I'm staring at the thing that's immediately next, I know that the like bigger, deeper, more important directional vision kind of idea of the business and where I want to take it will show up. And so I'm teaching what I just described to you, the writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I call this the contribution method. I'm teaching a live masterclass in that in a couple weeks. And then after that, I'm going to kind of actually turn things down for the summer quite a bit and focus on getting A, outside, and B, more into my body and less into my head.
I love it. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how were you able to build that life?
10 years of grueling hard work, working 60 hours a week. No, that's probably kind of the real answer. But one of them, so when I chose to move with the family to Erie, Pennsylvania, it was, there's a very small airport here. And so I was partly choosing to stop traveling. So for the past 10 years, I like to think that I've been a professional arms uncrosser. I've traveled around, been invited to keynote big conferences, events, company retreats, sales kickoffs, etc. and to really design those. But I do that in a very unusual way, right? Instead of just speaking to people, I invite their contribution and quite active contribution throughout, which event organizers love because people walk out saying, holy smokes, I've never experienced something like that. That was so awesome. Time flew, blah, blah, blah. That was not going to work. That lifestyle was not going to work moving to Erie. I've got 2 little ones as well.
Right.
And so all along that path, I've just been creating and sharing what I know and what I've been learning online or on a YouTube channel, just with my name, Chad Littlefield, and just answering questions that leaders have had, like before, during, and after events that I've led, and just recorded my best, most useful, interesting answer to those on YouTube and shared those.
Okay.
And one result of that is that I've grown an awesome list of pretty dedicated, 60,000 pretty dedicated leader, facilitator, trainer, educator kind of types. And so the business model in the last couple of years has shifted to kind of being at a critical mass where now I host 2 things a year. Instead of me attending things that other people are hosting and speaking at them, I host every December this Connectors Summit online. It's designed specifically for people who run and actively lead groups. And then every spring, I teach the contribution method masterclass to a smaller cohort of people, a little bit of a deeper dive. Like you come out of that being able to just write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on a piece of paper, design your entire live session, and have someone ask you for have essentially every engagement, every gig turn into 2 more because of the way that it's designed. And so because partially at a economy of scale of the last 10 years of building this audience, now I can host stuff, and it pays the bills, but it also allows me to do the work that I'm most passionate about too. Like it's not just a business shift. It's like I love working with this category of people because I think they have an outsized impact on the planet. Because anybody who shows up to the Connector Summit, in fact, we did this the first summit. I asked people, part of the Unofficial Start actually, can you type in the chat the number of people who you will directly be in a room with, virtually or in person, facilitating in the next year? And so 400 numbers came through the chat, and we took the average of those numbers was 1,000 people. So 400 people on the call were directly responsible for the experience of 400,000 people off the call.
Wow.
And so for me, it's like it's actually not just a business strategy. It's like it's the way that I'm looking to scale impact beyond, like there's only so many keynotes and workshops I can do for private companies and organizations in a year. Whereas the scale's a little bit wider. So that excites me as well.
That definitely should. That's a lot of lives here.
Yeah.
500,000 in one webinar.
One event. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
right.
Yeah. The idea of being able to, I have many times in my life had one tiny little 2% change or little perspective shift drastically alter decisions that I make for the next decade or so. And so this is the idea of the summit is like, come here and your money and time will be very well spent if the only thing that happens is you're going to pick up a bunch of ideas, but the only thing that happens is you pick up one little subtle shift that edits the way that you operate for the next year. It's like, that's the aim of Gathering.
Right.
Yep.
I love it. Well, how do people find you? Like, how do they reach out to you?
How do people search things now, Dr. Hardy? Like Google? I don't know.
Yeah.
Perplexity, ChatGPT, Claude. You could just search my name, Chad Littlefield, or my business is We and Me. The website is weand.me. And I'm all over YouTube. If you even search anything related to connecting or an icebreaker that doesn't suck or no prep icebreaker for adults, I'll probably be filling up the YouTube page, for better or worse.
Perfect. All right. Well, definitely reach out to Chad Littlefield, and multiple ways to find it. And, well, of course, stay tuned to the next episode of The Hardy Brain, the show that takes athletic, introverted entrepreneurs and leaders and transforms them into ironclad brain performers. Take care.